guys, it's Michelle, Cozyegg, and today is Wednesday, August 21st, 2019. Thanks for joining. So it's been a little while. It's been a little over a month since I recorded. I didn't record on my normal recording day because I was trying to finish something. I'm sure you can all guess what it is. And I didn't really want to record, like right as I was at the tail end, and then have to wait another month before showing you the finish. So I just put off recording, and luckily this spot in the day opened up so that I could record today. So, also I'm in a different spot. I'm in the living room today. I am on vacation this week, so I'm recording in the middle of the day, and I'm trying to do it with natural light in front of a window. Hopefully that works out and I will have good light, good color, all that good stuff. It's like 1,000 degrees here in Texas, so I'm super, see what it's doing? I'm super ready for fall. Although fall in Texas is like 2 days, but I can pretend. Okay, so as I was saying, I'm on vacation this week from work, so I had the opportunity to record during the day with some natural light. So I'm recording in a different spot. So we'll see how that goes. What else has been going on? So magical stitches. Because I was working really hard to finish Anniversaries of the Heart, I have not really been participating in magical stitches because, if I couldn't make it fit, I wasn't going to go, scrounging around for something else to work on in order to, make it fit with the homework. So I had a couple of weeks where I was able to make it fit, did my 1,000 stitches, got my points, etc. But I think it's been 2 or 3 weeks since I've really been able to participate, maybe just 2 weeks. So at some point I would like to get back to working on magical stitches. I needed to get Anniversaries of the Heart done, so I haven't been doing that. And it was starting to feel a little overwhelming too, because I was trying to focus on something and not jump from thing to thing to thing. 24 hours of cross stitch happened a couple of weekends ago, and so I did the 24 and 48. I think I only managed about 10, 11 something hours instead of 24, but whatever. And of course I worked on Anniversaries of the Heart for that too. So the Jen has announced the next weekend for the 24-hour marathon is going to be the first weekend in October, and she is combining it with dark October stitching. So she's going to have a couple different acrostics. One will be obviously Halloween related, and one will not be Halloween related, but you can go look at her latest video for all the information on that. But she wanted to be able to participate in dark October stitching, and she thought combining it with 24 hours would be the perfect thing. So she's got some great plans for it. I'm very much looking forward to that. Of course, Emily and I talked to Jen, and we're really excited about having that be part of Dark October stitching this year. And in case you're new, on the 13th of every month we do Dark 13 stitching, where you can stitch on your creepy, spooky, macabre, etc. pieces. And then for the month of October, we do Dark October stitching all month long. So you can use either of the hashtags on Instagram, and feel free to join in. So, and especially if you're going to do 24 hours of cross stitch in October, you can do 24 hours of dark stitching in October. So I'm trying to think about what specifically I might want to work on. I watched Emily's video, her new video last night, and she talked about, you know, the possibility of starting and finishing a piece, like starting a piece with the intention of finishing it in the 24 hours. And I kind of like that idea. So more to come as the plans are afoot. So magical stitches, 24 hours of cross stitch. The other thing that has been going on is, you know, I think I mentioned in my last video or my last couple of videos that we've been doing a ton of deep cleaning at the house and going through, you know, cleaning all the baseboards and moving furniture and all that good stuff. So we've been doing that over the past many weekends. And one of the things too that has kind of come out of that is that was it this past weekend? No, it must have been the weekend before. Tut is laying right here next to me, so he's stirring. So maybe 2 weekends ago, I pulled out everything out of my craft closet and went through things and tried to rearrange and organize. Eric helped me. And, you know, I've been talking about, you know, kind of taking stock and looking at my whips and things that I have going on and things that, you know, I may have started that I no longer love anymore. And so I had a few more things like that that I pulled out that I wanted to go through with you. So I think I mentioned, there we go. I think I mentioned last time that I had started the Talking Board by Primitive Needle a while back. It was a Dark October start, and I started it on this Dirty Belfast linen, which is just brown. I started it on this, and, you know, had barely any start on it. And when I pulled it back out again, I was like, yeah, I don't love it. So I'm actually going to sell this piece of fabric. I've got it in my pile of things that are going, and then at some point when I get ready to restart the Talking Board, I will get a piece of fabric that I really actually want to stitch it on and start on that. So that is no longer a whip. I ripped it out. Done. Another one of the pieces that I've had in that's fun, isn't it? That I have had in my whip pile forever is this piece. This is Country Cottage Needlework Sweet Treats. I think Vonna actually finished this not too long ago. And it has the little buttons, you know, that go on it, etc. And it's cute. But I've had this as a whip for forever. And that's as far as I am. So I think I'm done with this. Because I have no interest in working on this. This is on probably the called for so that the buttons would fit. So it's 28 count vintage lentil from Lakeside with crescent color threads. I'm never gonna finish this. So I've got all of the charts, and in all of these are the buttons, the threads, and I think I'm just going to sell this because there's no need for me to continue to hang on to it and to continue to have it as a whip when I couldn't tell you the last time I worked on it or wanted to work on it. So that's done. And I've said before, you know, I think that this taking stock and clearing out is kind of it's like peeling an onion. So, I mean, you have to kind of, you go through once and then you go through it again and then you go through it again. And each time you may find new things. The other piece I came across was my start on Autumn on Lazy Bear Mountain. And I dyed this piece of fabric that I just love. It is darker than that. But I just love it. This is how much I stitched. And I had pulled the DMCs for it. But then when I went to, and this is a 35 count, which is probably now like more like a 36 since I dyed it. But it was like a mystery fabric. And when I went to start stitching it, I was trying one strand of black DMC. I need to move that, sorry. And I didn't like the coverage. Like one strand was not enough, 2 strands was too much, which is why I never stitch on 36 count fabric. So I actually went with, I think it's Weeks Onyx, 2 strands, and I liked the coverage. So, great. But that's all I've got done. So, you know, I took a hard look at this and I thought, okay, I still want to stitch this. And I still may stitch it on this fabric. But I don't want to stitch it with the DMCs, and I'm certainly not going to buy the MPIs to stitch it. I think I want to do it in overdyes. And so then I got to thinking, you know, about doing my own overdyed conversion, and somewhere in the back of my head, I remembered, didn't Jen from Quirks and Stitches do an overdyed conversion for hers? And sure enough, she did. And not only that, she had sent it to me. So, this will eventually get restarted. to do in overdyes because I'm not going to do it in DNC. And I'll make the decision at that point if I'm going to use that fabric or if I'm going to go up to a 40 count. So this is no longer a whip. We're done with that. So if I lean back, it kind of goes back to the right color. So those are some of the things that I have been pulling out of my whips and deciding I don't have any interest in this. I don't like the way it was started, or I'm not interested in continuing to stitch on it. So either restarts or done. And it feels really good to let some of that stuff go. The other thing over the weekend when we were going through my closet, obviously I have a million whips, stitching, quilting, knitting, etc. And so, you know, Eric was suggesting that I focus on the things that are closest to being done and just sort of, you know, ignore everything else, focus on those things that are like 75% more or done, and just get them done and off the plate. So that's my plan, because I just want, you know, I'm tired of having this many whips, and you know, Jessie Marie and I, you know, have kind of commented back and forth with each other because she's been, you know, kind of looking at the same thing, that she wants to cut down on the number of whips that she has. She'd really like to be, I think she said around 20. 20 would be fantastic. I keep thinking that I'd love to be one of those people that starts something and then finishes something and then starts something and then finishes something. I don't know that that's ever going to happen, but I certainly do not need the amount of things started that I have started. And I've talked about it before, that a lot of the reason that I put something aside is because I'm either not happy with it, like in the case of some of these that I just showed you, you know, one of those forced starts that I started it with what I had on hand and not really what I wanted to use. I've tossed something aside because I have a mistake that has to be corrected, and I'm frustrated with it, or I have to make a decision. Like I have to rechart something, or I want to change, you know, something, but I'm not sure what to change it to, or I have a color that's not working and I've got to fix that. And so instead of pushing through it, I just toss it aside. And then I have, you know, a million whips staring me in the face. So I'm going to start working on just trying to focus on those things that are closest to being finished and get them done. So let's talk about some of the things that I've been working on. I'm going to do finishes at the end. So let's talk about whips that my cat is laying on. I have been working on my Hex on the Beach glitter vinyl a little bit, not a lot, since I've been really kind of focusing on Anniversaries, but I did do some work on this, and I got row 8 sewn on, I got row 9 sewn together, and I've started sewing row 9 on. So here's kind of where we're at. You can see how much of row 9 I have added. So this is Hex on the Beach by Tula Pink. It is in Tula Pink Saltwater, so I have this much of row 9 that still has to be attached. This is in Tula Pink Saltwater. It's English paper piecing, which means that you are basting around a piece of paper and then sewing the pieces together. And then you can take the papers out. Once they're, like once your piece is surrounded on all sides, you can take the papers out. So you can see here, I've left the papers on all of the edge pieces, but the ones that are surrounded, I've taken them out so that they, because they'll keep their shape once they're sewn. Can I have that? Thank you. Can I have that? Thank you. So, little bit of work on that, trying to just put in he keeps putting his paw on my bag, and then when I move his paw, then he puts it back. So I've just been trying to work on this a little bit at a time, trying to get it closer to being finished. I have a ways to go. So that's row 9 that I'm sewing on. There are 40 rows, so I'm not quite a fourth of the way yet, but I'm continuing to work on this. I had a, can I have this? I had a new start after I just got done telling you all about the things I'm not doing. This is in my project bag that I made for myself out of the Tula Pink Pinkerville fabric. And I have an M zipper pull from my friend Mary. So I made a similar bag for Sylvia for our exchange, and then I want to show you the inside, so I'm taking all this out. I will insert a photo of hers here. So you can see that mine is similar, different colorway, and I used a different fabric on the inside. So I used this pixie dust fabric on the inside, vinyl front. I love how it turned out. This was my first vinyl project bag attempt. This one, and then the Paris one that I showed you last time, and Sylvia's. So what did I start? So Sylvia and I decided that we were going to start, this is Blackbird Designs, Our Lasting Friendship, and we're stitching that sampler, which is also the one that's on the back. And I'm doing it on the called for fabric, which I think is 40 count Legacy. Picture this plus. They called for 36. I went with 40. By Picture This Plus. And it's kind of, their pictures aren't always the best color-wise, but you know, it's kind of greens and golds and browns. And when I got the threads all pulled together, I realized several of them were almost identical. Like tarragon and camouflage, identical. And there were a couple others that were really close. So I ended up, you know, I chose one of the two that were so similar, and then I added in some additional colors. So, Let me show you what I got. I'm gonna pretend I'm Nicole. And I have my ring from Emily. So I added in some pinks. I pulled that one, and then I pulled this paler one. I pulled this brighter gold. And then I pulled this darker brown. And so I think it gives me a little better range than it was without that. Because if you take away the pinks and you take away this gold, this is basically what the sampler was. Just with more of the same green and more of the same kind of khaki colors. So I added in a little extra. I think Sylvia had added in some blue to hers as well. I didn't find a blue that I liked. So the plan was we were gonna do this, we were gonna start this on August 1st. And she was going to be here. She went to summer school at the Attic last weekend. And then she was gonna be kind of layover here for one day before going back to Germany. So the plan was that we would try to get to a place where we could stitch our initials on each other's pieces while she was here. That sort of worked. So I took a few days out of working on Anniversaries of the Heart to work on this, to get it to a place where I felt like I was ready for her. So this is what I got done. And so these are all the little cartouches that the initials go in. I had, you know, several stitched. She decided that she wanted to stitch this, the one that's heart-shaped. So she started stitching that, but didn't quite get to her initials. And the same thing with me stitching on hers. I started stitching the outside. I'm doing this one on hers. And I started stitching the outside, made a big mistake, had to rip it out, didn't quite get to my initials. So we'll just work around that. But at least we have stitched on each other's pieces now. And the next time we're together, we can do that. So, but I'm happy about the progress on that. And I'm happy how the colors are looking. So. With my thread colors. And I may adjust some more as I get a little more done, we'll see. But for now, I'm good with it. So, I worked on that. I also worked on this. Oh, and I was using my Hardwick Manor hoop to work on Our Lasting Friendship, because I had my 11 by 11 Q-snap, had Anniversaries of the Heart in it, and I didn't want to keep pulling it out and putting it back in, so I was using this. I'm still not sold that I'm a hoop girl. At some point I made the decision that if I had a really nice hoop, I would like it. I don't know. at least it got some use. So the other thing that I worked on at some point, I think I pulled this out from Magical Stitches. I don't really remember what caused me to pull it out, but I think that's why I pulled it out. So this was the Merrywind Farm horn book that was a freebie on her site. This is 40 count weeks tin roof. It's darker than that, but hard for you to tell. Tin roof is very similar, I think, to Confederate Gray, but obviously this is not a Zweigart base. I used a silken color silk called Elephant in the Castle. I just thought it looked really pretty on here. It came from my Midi Mystery one from Chatelaine, and I loved using it in that, and I'm happy that I got to use more of it because I really love this silk. And it also reminds me of Harry Potter. And I changed the quote, the verse. I think I talked about that in my last video. This is actually a quote, well, a slightly modified quote from Dumbledore. And I'm happy with how it turned out. Now, I got to the end of this, so I did it for Magical Stitches homework, and then I was so close to a finish, I just kept going with it. I got to the end of it and realized that those 3 motifs at the bottom were off center in her chart. So I ripped them out and recentered them, or centered them, and restitched them, so now they're centered. But I'm happy with how that turned out. So this was kind of a guild project that we were doing, and a bunch of us decided to do it, different fabrics and silks, or whatever colors, etc. And one of the members had these horn books that she finished, and they're kind of a silvery, I mean, you can kind of see the sheen on that. They're kind of a silvery gray. Really pretty. So I think that this is gonna look really good on here. I just need to do the finishing. But that's another whip done. So into the finishing pile. And I think I had started this for like Mania last year, maybe. So I was happy to have that finished. Okay. So I had some things come in. Diana was selling project bags in Emily's group, the Eclectic Possessions group on Facebook. This came to live with me. And I love this size, this smaller size that Diana does. With the opening at the top, at the skinny side. And when I was digging around in my stash, I found a pair of scissors. So I threw those in there, and I thought, you know, I really love Diana's idea of having a little car project, and this made me think of her. So I threw this in. This was a kit from Not Forgotten Farm that has all the stuff. So this just made me think of her, so I put it in this bag as a potential car project because I like that idea. So perfect size if it's not stuck on your scissors. Then it goes in easier. So. I decided that for designing I needed one of these that has the actual threads in them. And this does have all of the new threads that were just released, which I love, including the etoiles. So that will come in very helpful because I've been working on some designing that I will hopefully get moving along here soon. Okay. And then I went to my quilt guild last month, and we had that looks so freaky. We had someone come and speak to us about Aurifil threads, which was very, very interesting. Lots of good information. And so she talked about, you know, the different weights of Aurifil thread. You know, a lot of people have been talking about the silky threads. Aurifil does actually have a 12 weight. As well as some, you know, cotton floss, all kinds of stuff, wool, etc. So we got some little freebies, which was cool, including a thread card, color card, which is super helpful. And we got a spool of this is 40 weight. So very nice. And the woman that came to speak to us was Sherry from Whole Circle Studios. And she showed us her quilts. She talked a lot about Aurifil and thread and all that good stuff. So it was a good meeting. well worth it. And then I got a wonderful surprise in the mail. So Margot, Crafts from Margot, Crafts by Margot. I think it's by Margot. From, by, it's Margot anyway. She stitched this for me, and the fabric that she stitched it on is the same fabric that she used to stitch my La Luna design. So super special. This is the freebie design from Diana, It Is Kismet Stitches, and Michelle Bendy. And spools on the back. I love it so much. And it means so much to me that not only did she stitch this and send it to me, but that she did it on her La Luna fabric. And then she sent me a sweet card. And then she also sent me crystals, which I love. So one of them is aquamarine, which is sort of picking up that blue. And then one of them is chalcedony, which also has a blue tint to it. And they're both beautiful, perfect thing to send me. So it was a super surprise and a very welcome surprise. And it came at a time that I really needed it. So thank you so much, Margot. I really, really appreciate it. And I appreciate so much that you have stitched my La Luna design, and you were one of the first people to stitch it. So I will treasure this. Thank you. So those came, and I had to order some threads that I needed for Anniversaries of the Heart, and I wanted to talk about one in particular. Old Purple Paint, Gentle Arts. So I really love this thread. It's purple, but it's almost kind of a gray purple with a little bit of brown to it. It's a fantastic color. It's not purple. It's very toned down, very muted, like you would imagine old purple paint to be. When I got my new skein of it, it is brown. Like it's reading there like it's got a little bit of purple in it, but in person you don't see that. It is brown. And when you put the two together, they are vastly, vastly different, unfortunately. So I could not use this in my piece. And I've got two other pieces that call for old purple paint. And I'm not using brown on them. And so Sampler Sisters uses it, which I'm already in the midst of, and Casting a Spell uses it, which I'm already in the midst of. So, luckily, while I was digging around in my closet, I came across another vintage skein of it. So, I'm saved for now, but really, really unhappy with how different this is from what it used to be. I don't know if anybody else has had that experience, but I'm not a happy person. But I had enough to do what I needed to do, thankfully. So, okay. I'm going to show you one more thing. So since Sylvia was here, you know, we were going to, so we exchanged project bags in June, or she sent me a project bag. I made one, didn't send it. So she got it when she got here. And then I made another project bag for her for August. I will insert a photo here. So I decided to do something a little different. I had seen a bag that was similar to this. I liked the point, and I liked the ribbon closure, so I did that. And I did size it so that it fits like an 11 by 11 Q-snap perfectly. So it's more square than rectangular. And so she made this for me, perfect for August. And my favorite part is the star zipper pull, because I love stars. I love the zipper and the decorative pieces to it. Perfect. Love it. And then she also gave me this, which is Long Dog's Game of Swans, which I have been in love with since it was released, because I am really big into swans for some reason. But I just have loved this from the first moment I laid eyes on it. So she got me this, which I'm super excited about. And my first piece of color and cotton linen, which is going to be hard to see the color, but it is called, the color is called Luna, and this is a 40 count. And I think that these two things are perfect together. And I also received, so this was birthday gift. My birthday is tomorrow. I also received this beautiful thread keep from another friend. And so I have pulled all of the threads for Game of Swans that I have. I'm missing 3. There's another green, another pink, and then a red that I'm missing. But yeah, I think that's potential thing that might happen tomorrow. Even though I just talked about finishing things, this may have to happen. So, and she gave me this, which looks like an interesting contraption, but it is a light. You can clip it to your Q-snap. You can bend these little lights over your piece. So if you are sitting somewhere that you don't have really good light, this just clips right on your Q-snap and you have a light. Super fun. So, that's what I got for my birthday. And I'm going to talk really quick about books. So I finished reading Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, and I've started Order of the Phoenix. I am obviously way behind for Magical Stitches, but I'm still continuing to read and I'm enjoying reading them. So, I think that the first 4 I have reread previously, but the next 3, I think I only read them when they first came out. So rereading Order of the Phoenix is going to be kind of brand new because I am not as familiar with it as I am with the earlier ones. So that should be interesting. So I'm enjoying that. And as part of all of the deep cleaning and everything that we've been doing too, I have been working on an inventory of all of our books, because at one point I had an inventory of all of our books, but with bringing all of my books from storage and getting rid of a lot of books so that books from storage could come and vice versa, I don't have any idea what I have anymore. So I've been working on that, close to having that finished. And as I was doing that, I realized there are a ton of books that I have here that I have not read. So I want to finish reading the Harry Potter books, but then once I finish with that, I think my next project is going to be to start working my way through the books that I own and have not read. So I am starting, I'm pulling all of those into its own list so that I can kind of track that and track my project progress of it. So more to come on that when I get closer to it, but I really feel like that's something that I need to work on. So that's coming. Okay, so then the moment you've all been waiting for, I finished Anniversaries of the Heart. And this is probably going to be a lengthy discussion, so if you're not here for it, that's fine. So I'm just going to show you the whole thing and then we'll talk about it. So there it is, all finished. And this is another example of Michelle doesn't know how to center things on her fabric. Whatever. So this is on 40 count vintage exemplar, not light exemplar, by Lakeside. And so it's a to stitch it all in one piece, it's a challenging, and it's coming across much lighter than it actually is, obviously. But it's a challenging piece to find a fabric that works for it, because it has these super light blocks like Snow Garden, but then it has, you know, darker blocks like the one with the swans, that you want your fabric to be dark enough that you want your swans to show up on. You want this light colored block to show up on, but then there are darker blocks too. So I ultimately went with, I really wish you could see the color of that. I ultimately went with Vintage Exemplar, and I'm very happy with it. There were still, you know, some colors that I had to adjust as I went because they were just too close to my linen color. But there you go. And I did take a short video of this that I will insert at the end of this video that shows some more close-ups. So here's the last block. I finished this last night. And I'm very happy with it. So I put an R here for Ramses and a T here for Tut. 2019. So I started this in June of 2010, and I basically stitched these for the most part in order of the charts. So the first block that I stitched, I put the initials of my cats on here. So H for Hamlet, O for Othello, and there's an R on here someplace. The R's right here for Romeo. So those were my boys. And January is typically a month that I think of, you know, as being kind of a fresh new start. And so I actually put my maiden name, my initials on here, and I put 2002 because that was the year that I got divorced. And I felt like, and yes, I said I started this in 2010, but I felt like I wanted to kind of commemorate that new start in my life. So, and then when I started stitching this, my original thought, my dad was really into genealogy and researching the family history and all that good stuff. And so I was originally going to put in, you know, interesting ancestors, you know, that had good stories, that had interesting names, etc. That's how I was going to personalize it. And so I talked to my dad about it at the time, and when I was starting to plan for the second block, and he gave me some options. But then he had also mentioned that, you know, because I was looking for people that had a date in February, because that was the February block. You know, he also mentioned that that's when his dad's birthday was. So I got to thinking about it, and the more I thought about it, the more I decided that I really wanted this piece to be special, and I really wanted to put personalizations on it that were important to me, just like I did with the first block. So I ended up putting my grandfather's name on there, and the, you know, his birth date and all that. And I showed this to my dad. He was really kind of blown away by it when he saw it. and then I sort of continued on. So I think after I stitched that one, so then this was one of the bonus blocks, this third one. And it's charted to just be an alphabet, which I did not love. And so Siobhan had, when she did hers, she changed hers to be a verse that was significant to her, that she wanted, you know, on her piece. And I decided to do the same, but it took me a long while to kind of figure out what I wanted to do and to chart it out and figure out, you know, all that baloney. But I ended up putting a phrase in Italian that we have engraved on the inside of our wedding rings. So I'm really happy with how it turned out. And about that time, probably, I think it was October of 2011, my dad was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. And at some point between, you know, probably around maybe December or January of the next year, like December of that year, January of 2011 or 2012, I decided, you know what, the June block, which is when my dad's birthday is, I wanted to dedicate to him and his mother because their birthdays were very close together. And so I decided to kind of skip down and start the June block with the plan to have it finished to show him. And I did not make it. So he was diagnosed in October, he died in February of 2012, and I did not get the block done in time. So here's the June block, this one. And he had told me, you know, stories about how he and his mom, you know, their birthdays were so close together that she would make a cake and put a little, like a baby cake on top of it. And she would tell him that that was their secret, you know, that it was 2 cakes in one for him and one for her. So on the inscription here, I wrote 2 cakes in one. And I've got his name, her name, and the years they were born. So, after that, I kind of had to set this aside for a while, and a lot of things changed in my life when my dad died. So I don't really have contact with the rest of my family anymore. My mom and my sister and my niece. So going through grieving for my dad, I was essentially grieving my whole family. So this piece has been hard to work on, which is one reason why it took so long. This is the March block, and so here I put some of Eric's family in, his grandparents. I remember working on this on the plane to and from Germany in 2014 when I went to visit Sylvia. and I enjoyed stitching the bricks. I love stitching bricks, just like with the Valentine house. So that's the March block. This is the April block. Eric and I were married in April, so that's our block. And then I did the May block for his parents. This one was a fun one. Old purple paint. And around that time is when I spilled coffee on this piece. So I couldn't leave it. So I had to end up dunking it in water and rinsing it. And some of my threads did run a little bit. I'm okay with it. But you can see some of, my birds have kind of a halo around them, and some of my reds have a little bit of a halo around them. But other than that, you can't really tell that I spilled coffee all over the middle of this piece. So I had that to recover from. So May block, we talked about the June block. This block, the July block, was actually one of my favorite blocks because of course it has swans. And this color thread is like one of my favorite colors, and now of course the name escapes me completely. But I love it. I kind of switched up the September and August. So this block is technically the September block, but I did it for my grandmother because the butterfly and the colors in it just reminded me of her. And I did the September block for my niece. Well, sorry, the August block for my niece, even though her birthday is in September. And I had a really hard time with this block because there were threads that were so light, they were not showing up, and I had to do some major like ripping out and restitching to get things to show up. Like all of these vines and the leaves didn't show up on my fabric at all, so I had to switch greens. But it was frustrating, and this was one of those blocks that was really hard to work on emotionally. This block, like I said, is for my grandmother. I was also working on it at the time that one of my mentors, Reverend Kay, died. Her birthday was also in August, so I put her name up here with her information as well. And then these last 4 blocks actually went pretty quick, comparatively speaking. So October is Eric's block. I love that big white pumpkin. The November block is for Eric's sister and my sister. That was also a difficult block to work on, and I had to rechart this to rearrange it a little bit. The December block for my mom, also hard. And then finally the bonus double block at the end. So I'm really happy that I stuck with it, and I'm really glad that I did the personalizations to be meaningful, even as hard as it has been to work on this. So this will probably get framed at some point. I'm really happy to have it done. And in case you have not heard, Blackbird is reprinting these charts, particularly the ones that have been difficult to get. The farmhouse chart, this one, has been really difficult to find. So they are actually reprinting those, and I believe they're now available. So if you've been looking for them, if you want to stitch these, well worth it. So that's it. I think that may be all that I have to share. So yeah, so since I recorded last, I finished block 12, the bonus block, and of course then the whole thing. And I finished it about 3 o'clock this morning. But I was determined to get it done. So, this may be happening tomorrow for my birthday. And then on Friday through Sunday, I'm going on another in-town quilting retreat. So I've already picked out what I'm going to bring with me to work on and try to get some of these quilt whips finished too. So, all right, I think that's it. Eric made me a cake, so we have lemon cake. We went out to dinner on Saturday and had a lovely birthday dinner. It's significant that I finished this right before my birthday because, like I said, it's been hard emotionally, and my birthday is always hard emotionally because of not having my family anymore. So now I have new family. So Eric and the cats and I will be, oh, did I even show you that? Like on the, so on this block I had Hamlet and Othello and Romeo, and on this block I have an R for Ramses and a T for Tut. And the official name for this business, I have dubbed those lawn bricks. All right, with that, I will leave you. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks so much for sticking around. Thanks so much for cheering me on, particularly all the people in the Friday Off the Grid group that probably got sick of seeing this piece, because every Friday it was like, here I am again. So, happy to have that done. Moving on to new things. Going to focus on some finishes and maybe a birthday start and some designing. All right, thanks guys.